Let's talk about what a normal foot looks like. I think a lot of us don't even know what that is, and we see basically deformed toes every day, and we think that that's normal, and it's absolutely not. And I think because we stick our feet in shoes all day long, we never see them. We're never like connecting with our feet. We're never barefoot. And we don't even know what they're supposed to look like anymore. So let's get reacquainted with our feet and figure out what is normal and what is not. And let's stop overlooking these deformities and assuming that it's just normal. So let's look at our feet. Okay, so sit comfortably on the floor and get reacquainted with what your foot looks like for starters. Just check it out. Whether or not there's pain, these things should be addressed. You just see them later on down the road affecting something. Okay, so just get comfortable, sit on the floor, and if you need to, you can sit with your foot in your lap, whatever's comfortable. I'm going to kind of go through things that I would look for in a foot, whether or not there was pain. Why don't you just start by looking at your toes alignment? And this is like the biggest thing that gets overlooked for so many people, and that is hammer toes. I would say almost everybody that I come in contact with has a couple hammer toes. I'm one of those people. I have this little guy right here that's just been stubborn for years and years, been working on it for years and years. And, someday, God willing, it'll go away. But in the meantime, here's what we're looking for. You want to see if you can just lay all your toes down flat, especially up in this position. If you start flat, pick yourself up off your heel. Can your toes stay flat? And you will probably see that they do different things. And one might kind of bear down, claw down, which is a hammer toe. One might kind of like go off in a certain direction. Your big toe might start caving in, moving towards the other toes like that. All sorts of things happen, and basically we don't want any of those things to happen. We want to have flat toes so that when we lift our heel up, they're staying flat on the ground like this, right? So my fingers aren't clawing down. When I come up, they're not doing this because they're strong on both sides. Everything is symmetrical, and that's why a hammer toe happens, because that symmetry is lost between the flexors and the extensors. So there's your number one thing, hammer toes. And then we also talked about the big toe. Does the big toe go inwards? That means that is called the Hallux valgus. Even if you don't see it, you can just stand there flat. But picture yourself walking, and this is walking, right? The minute you push off your toe and it goes inwards, there's your Hallux valgus. And that is what leads to bunions. You don't have to necessarily have a bunion form, but if that toe is going inwards, then you're not pushing through your big toe. And that's important in gait, because we need to walk this way and not that way, because you could picture where that would put stress somewhere else up the chain. Okay, so you've got your toe deformities. Those are like the major things to look for. You can check out the bottom of your foot and see where are all your calluses, because you should have calluses. They are a totally normal thing. They're there for a reason, and that reason is protection. So for those of you who like to go and shave down your calluses all the time, I would suggest not, unless they're in an abnormal place. So if we're supposed to be pushing through our big toe, then we should probably have some callusing right here. I would say 90% of people, probably even more, will have callusing here. And I have that. And that is from just years and years of footwear that squished my toe, made it go that way, and so I'm rubbing right here. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're pushing off the side of your toe. Like for me now, I'm probably not doing that as much since I wear minimal barefoot shoes now. But I still have callusing. And I still get rubbing against some shoes, of course. So that's normal. We would really like to see ball of the foot, right? The big toe like the bottom of the toes, and then the side of the foot. Obviously the heel. Heel should have a pretty thick calloused area to it. Your feet are just going to be more sensitive, so I can go walk on rocks because I'm not shaving down my calluses all the time. It doesn't hurt me to do that, whereas other people, it kills because their feet are so sensitive. That's mostly from other reasons that their feet are so sensitive. That's another video some other day. But so that's what you want to look for. Another sign of those hammer toes is callousing on the tips of the toes, which means that when they're coming down, instead of going flat and you're getting callousing here, now they're doing this, so you're getting callousing here. So what should be facing this way is actually facing down to the ground. And that's where you'll get callousing, because now you're like grabbing and pushing off of that instead of this. Now, if you have any of those things, watch the video on how to correct your toe alignment and hammer toes. I'll be doing an update to that video soon too. Okay, so you've got your alignment, you've got your callousing, and then the big thing is, do I have a rigid foot or do I have a flexible foot? And I can't say like which I see more. It's almost like I feel like I see a combination often. Basically, we want to be able to supinate, where your arch gets really high. Not really high, but your arch turns on. And then pronate, and that's when your foot relaxes. We need both. We need both to walk. If you only have one, then that means you're kind of stuck in that position, and that your foot is either not unlocking or not becoming a rigid lever to push through and gait. You could probably imagine why we need both of those. Do you have too much of one? Maybe, probably. So that's something to look at. And I wouldn't expect anyone to know if they have an excessive amount, except if you have a very flat foot, yet you have an arch, right? You can still do that, but you really collapse inwards. And when you really collapse inwards, then your knee kind of drops into, and your alignment all the way up your leg is now off. Some people just have a flat foot, and that's okay. Some people have a really strong foot, and it makes it look like a flat foot because these muscles are so developed. That's okay too. So it's figuring out, what do I have? Do I need to do anything to alter it to make it better? I've done this video before in the past, standing. You can stand, cross your arms like I Dream of Jeannie, but you're standing completely tall. And then you're just going to rotate, so you can see how my legs are turning. A lot of people, when they do this, if they have a rigid foot, meaning they don't go into pronation, then they're going to turn. Whoop, I forgot to have a rigid foot. They're going to turn, and their whole foot will do something like this, right? And then they try to go into pronation, but they're stuck up high in this arch. They try to turn, and their whole foot pivots like this. So for them to try to rotate like this, where you can see my foot is locking and unlocking, right? They're going to look more like this. And it's like, it is very hard for them to dissociate the two movements. Or a really flat foot, you're stuck in that pronation, and you go to supinate on this foot, and it stays. And then even that might do like a little bit of a pivot move where it's like twisting on the ground. It's hard when you can do these things to show it. So we're pronated. You can see how my knees have been affected by my foot way over pronating. I'm trying to turn now this way, and that foot is just not supinating. Here it is from that side. So here I am pronated. I'm trying to rotate to the outside, and my foot is just not unlocking, or sorry, my foot is not going into supination. And in a way it is locked, but it's stuck in pronation. Those are all like the basic things that I would look for immediately for anybody. I want to see their alignment. I want to see what is their general foot type. Is it rigid or is it flexible? What do we need to work on? Do we need to work on anything? And then I want to see what's their wear pattern on their, you can look at your shoe too, but if you just look at the bottom of your foot and you see the callusing, is a really good way to determine that too. So few things for you to check out yourself. If that's not enough information and you have more questions, then you can always schedule a 20-minute free consult with me, where we can discuss if you need to get an actual functional movement assessment by a professional, and we could talk about that too. So good luck with your own self-assessment.